The galactic arena buzzed with excitement as thousands of beings from across the star systems gathered to witness the annual Precision Championships. Commander Sarah stood at the edge of the human observation deck, watching alien competitors demonstrate their incredible accuracy skills. Her hands gripped the railing as she observed the delegation hitting targets the size of pinheads from impossible distances, their four arms moving in perfect synchronization. "Look at those pathetic humans," sneered the lead competitor, his voice carrying across the arena through the universal translator system. "They think they belong here with real marksmen." His reptilian features twisted into what humans had learned to recognize as amusement among his species. The crowd erupted in what sounded like alien laughter, a cacophony of clicks, hisses, and warbles that echoed through the massive dome. Sarah felt her jaw tighten, but she maintained her composure. The human team had trained for months to qualify for this competition, and now they faced the ridicule of species that had evolved specifically for precision tasks. They could thread a needle from 50 meters away. The crystalline could calculate trajectories that bent around multiple obstacles with mathematical perfection. They could track 17 different targets simultaneously with their compound eyes. Meanwhile, humans were known throughout the galaxy as the species that missed obvious things right in front of them, walked into glass doors, and somehow managed to put USB cables in wrong 3 times before getting it right. The reputation wasn't entirely undeserved, Sarah admitted to herself. Dr. James, the human team's physicist and strategist, approached Sarah with a tablet displaying the day's competition results. "The preliminary rounds are brutal," he said quietly, adjusting his glasses. "Every other species is hitting accuracy scores we can't even dream of. The team just achieved a 99.97% accuracy rating across 15 different precision tests." Sarah nodded, watching as the current competitors on the arena floor struck targets so small they appeared as mere dots on the massive display screens. "What's our best score so far?" "Lieutenant managed 78% on the static targeting," James replied, "which, to be fair, would be considered godlike accuracy by human standards back home. But here," he gestured toward the scoreboard where human scores sat firmly at the bottom of every category. The competition format was straightforward. Teams faced increasingly difficult accuracy challenges over 4 days. Static targets, moving targets, micro-targets, distance shooting, and precision tool manipulation. The species that accumulated the highest combined accuracy score would be declared the Galactic Precision Champions and earn the right to host next year's competition on there. Lieutenant Dave, Sergeant Maria Santos, and Corporal Alex made up the rest of the human team. They were among Earth's finest marksmen, individuals who could put bullets through the same hole repeatedly, perform surgery with laser precision, and manipulate delicate equipment under extreme stress. By human standards, they were extraordinary. By galactic standards, they were barely competent. As the day's formal competition concluded, the alien delegations gathered in small groups, their conversations filled with technical discussions about trajectory calculations, wind resistance factors, and optimal grip configurations. The humans found themselves increasingly isolated. Their attempts at conversation met with polite but dismissive responses. "Perhaps humans should focus on competitions more suited to their abilities," suggested Ambassador On of the delegation during the evening's diplomatic reception. His crystalline form refracted the ambient light into beautiful patterns as he spoke. "I understand you excel at activities requiring less precision, perhaps recreational competitions, entertainment sports." Sarah felt her team's frustration growing. They had come here representing not just Earth, but humanity's place in the galactic community. Every missed shot, every slightly off-target result, felt like a confirmation of what many alien species already believed, that humans were a crude, imprecise species that had somehow stumbled into space travel through luck rather than skill. "You know what I don't understand," said later as the human team gathered in their assigned quarters. "We're not actually that bad at this stuff. I mean, sure, we're not hitting microscopic targets but our scores aren't terrible." "The problem isn't our absolute performance," James explained, pulling up holographic displays of the day's data. "It's that we're being judged by alien standards of precision. Every species here evolved specific traits for accuracy. We evolved for something completely different." Santos looked up from cleaning her rifle, a custom piece that had served her well in Earth's military conflicts. "What do you mean?" "Think about it," James continued. They evolved on a world where precise hunting was necessary for survival. They developed mathematical precision to navigate their crystal cave systems, the needed accuracy to communicate through complex pheromone patterns. We evolved for adaptation and problem-solving under pressure. Who had been quietly studying video footage of the alien competitors suddenly looked up. James, pull up the competition rules again, all of them. As James displayed the comprehensive rule set, pointed to a section near the bottom. Look at this. Competitors may use any tools, techniques, or methods consistent with their species' natural abilities and standard technological development level. It doesn't say we have to compete exactly like they do. Sarah felt something shift in her understanding. What are you thinking? I'm thinking, said with a growing smile, that we've been trying to play their game instead of our own. Maybe it's time to show them what humans actually excel at. The alien laughter from earlier still echoed in Sarah's mind, but now it carried a different weight. Tomorrow's competition would feature the most challenging precision tests yet devised. Tests that had been specifically designed to push even the most accurate species to their limits. Tests that assumed every competitor would approach problems the same way. Perhaps it was time to prove that assumption wrong. The second day of competition brought new challenges that made the previous day's tests look simple. The arena floor had been reconfigured into a complex obstacle course where competitors had to navigate through shifting barriers while maintaining accuracy on targets that appeared randomly throughout the course. Wind generators created unpredictable air currents, and holographic distractions flickered at the edges of vision. "This is impossible," muttered a normally confident marksman as he completed his run with his lowest accuracy score yet. Even his species' legendary four-armed coordination couldn't compensate for the chaotic conditions. Sarah watched from the sidelines as team after team struggled with the new format. Despite their mathematical precision, found their calculated trajectories constantly invalidated by changing conditions. This multiple target tracking became overwhelmed by the holographic false targets scattered throughout the course. "Fascinating," Doctor observed, making notes on his tablet. "They're all approaching this the same way they approached yesterday's challenges, pure accuracy and precision. But this isn't really a precision test anymore." "What do you mean?" Sarah asked, though she was beginning to understand. "It's an adaptation test disguised as a precision challenge. The conditions are designed to make traditional accuracy methods fail. You can't calculate a perfect trajectory when the variables change every second. You can't rely on predetermined targeting when obstacles shift randomly." Lieutenant was the first human competitor to enter the course. Sarah held her breath as he approached the starting line, knowing that another poor performance would likely cement humanity's reputation as the galaxy's worst marksman. But something was different about his approach. Instead of studying the course layout like the alien competitors had done, he simply stepped up to the line and began moving. His rifle came up smoothly as he jogged forward, and his first shot rang out almost immediately. A hit, not perfect center, but a solid hit on a target that had appeared only half a second earlier. Continued moving, his pace increasing rather than slowing as he encountered obstacles. Where alien competitors had carefully planned each movement, simply reacted. When a barrier shifted unexpectedly, he rolled under it without breaking stride. When wind gusts threw off his aim, he adjusted mid-shot and continued firing. "He's not trying to be perfectly accurate," James realized, his voice filled with wonder. "He's trying to be effectively accurate under impossible conditions." The alien spectators had grown quiet. His accuracy percentage was still lower than theirs on individual shots, but something unprecedented was happening. He was hitting more targets overall because he was engaging targets that other competitors had deemed impossible to hit accurately. When a holographic distraction flickered directly in his path, didn't slow down to analyze it like they had done. He simply ignored it and fired through it at the real target beyond. When multiple targets appeared simultaneously, he didn't try to calculate the optimal sequence like He engaged them in the order he encountered them, trusting his reflexes and experience. By the time crossed the finish line, the arena was silent except for the sound of his breathing. The scoreboard flickered as it calculated his results. Total targets engaged, 47. Total hits, 39. Accuracy percentage, 83%. But more importantly, total score, the highest of any competitor so far. "How is this possible?" demanded, his forearms gesticulating wildly as he stared at the scoreboard. His accuracy is lower than ours. The competition's chief judge, an ancient being from the neutral wisdom keepers species, slowly turned one of his many eyes toward the delegation. The scoring system awards points based on successful target engagement under dynamic conditions. Accuracy percentage is only one factor. Adaptation speed, target acquisition under stress, and effective response to changing variables are equally weighted. Sarah felt a smile tugging at her lips as the implications became clear. The aliens had been so focused on pure accuracy that they had missed the actual nature of the competition. This wasn't just about hitting targets precisely. It was about hitting targets effectively under the worst possible conditions. Sergeant Santos went next. If had surprised the alien competitors, Santos amazed them. She moved through the course like she was dancing, her body flowing around obstacles that she seemed to anticipate before they fully formed. Her rifle never stopped moving, tracking and engaging targets with a fluid grace that no alien competitor had displayed. When mechanical obstacles tried to block her path, she didn't slow down to find the optimal route through them. She used them as cover while engaging targets on the other side. When the wind generators kicked up a dust storm that reduced visibility to nearly zero, she didn't wait for it to clear. She fired at the sound of target activation, trusting her hearing and experience to guide her shots. "This is not possible," screeched a delegate. "How can they function in conditions that eliminate precise targeting?" Doctor had moved to the edge of the observation area, his scientific mind working to understand what he was witnessing. "It's because precision isn't their primary adaptation," he said, more to himself than anyone else. "Humans evolved for survival in unpredictable environments. We had to hunt while being hunted, fight while adapting to constantly changing battlefield conditions, survive in environments that changed faster than we could calculate responses to." Corporal's run was even more remarkable. He approached the course with a methodical madness that left alien observers struggling to understand his strategy. When faced with a section where targets appeared behind multiple layers of shifting barriers, did something no alien competitor had attempted. He improvised. Using a piece of debris from a previous obstacle, created a makeshift ricocheting surface, bouncing shots around corners to hit targets that weren't supposed to be directly. When the course designers activated a section meant to test precision under extreme time pressure, simply started moving faster, trusting his reflexes over careful aim. "He's not following our targeting protocols at all," observed a mathematician. "He's creating new solutions in real time." "That's what humans do," Sarah said quietly, but her voice carried in the suddenly attentive arena. "We don't just solve problems. We solve problems we've never seen before, using tools that weren't designed for the task, under conditions that make traditional solutions impossible." By the end of the day, the human team had achieved something unprecedented in the history of the Galactic Precision Championships. They held the top 4 scores in the adaptive accuracy category, despite having the worst pure accuracy percentages of any team. The alien delegations gathered in confused clusters, their advanced minds struggling to understand how a species known for imprecision could outperform them in a precision competition. The delegation demanded a review of the scoring system. They began running complex calculations to understand where their methods had failed. But the ancient judge merely smiled with whatever passed for a smile among his species. "The universe is not a controlled environment," he said as the day's competition concluded. "Perhaps it is time we remembered that accuracy means more than simply hitting the center of a target." As the human team walked back to their quarters, Sarah could hear the alien delegations beginning heated discussions about strategy changes for tomorrow's competition. For the first time since arriving at the championships, she felt genuinely confident about humanity's chances. Tomorrow would bring the most challenging tests yet. Tests specifically designed to push the limits of what galactic civilization considered possible in terms of precision and accuracy. Tests that assumed competitors would approach them using traditional methods and well-established techniques. The aliens were about to learn that humans had never been particularly good at doing things the traditional way. The third day arrived with an air of tension that filled the entire arena. Word of humanity's unexpected performance had spread throughout the galactic community, and the observation decks were packed with species who had come to witness what many considered an impossibility. humans competing at the highest levels of a precision championship. The challenge for Day 3 was the most complex yet devised. Called the Chaos Protocol, it simulated real-world conditions where accuracy and precision were required under maximum stress. Competitors would face multiple simultaneous challenges, moving targets in 3 dimensions, environmental hazards that activated randomly, limited ammunition, equipment failures, and time pressure that increased throughout the course. "This is where human inexperience will finally show," declared ambassador of the delegation. "Today's challenge requires not just adaptation, but mastery of multiple precision techniques simultaneously. No species can succeed here without years of specialized training." The alien competitors had spent the night developing new strategies, trying to incorporate the adaptive elements they had observed in human performance while maintaining their superior accuracy standards. They had programmed new coordination patterns for their forearms. They had updated their trajectory calculation systems to account for rapid variable changes. They had practiced switching between their different visual processing modes more rapidly. Sarah watched the first few alien runs with growing amazement. Despite their modifications, they were still approaching each challenge as a series of separate precision tests to be solved sequentially. When equipment failed, they stopped to diagnose and repair it. When environmental hazards activated, they waited for safe windows to proceed. When multiple targets appeared, they prioritized them based on difficulty and accuracy requirements. The results were predictably poor. Even the mighty team, with their legendary four-armed coordination, struggled to maintain their usual accuracy standards under the chaotic conditions. Their scores dropped dramatically as they tried to maintain perfect precision while dealing with impossible variables. "They still don't understand," Doctor observed as he watched a competitor spend precious seconds calculating the optimal trajectory for a shot that would be obsolete by the time the calculation finished. "They're trying to bring order to chaos instead of embracing the chaos itself." When Lieutenant entered the course for the human team's first run, the arena fell silent. Everyone, alien and human alike, understood that this moment would define not just the competition, but humanity's place in the galactic community's perception. His approach was immediately different. When his equipment suffered its first programmed failure, a scope malfunction that would normally require careful, he simply tossed the scope aside and continued with iron sights. When environmental hazards filled his path with obstacles, he didn't wait for them to clear. He used them as stepping stones and cover simultaneously. But the real revelation came when faced the course's ultimate challenge, a section where everything went wrong at once. Multiple equipment failures, maximum environmental chaos, targets appearing and disappearing in impossible patterns, and a timer counting down to 0. Instead of trying to solve each problem individually, did something that left the alien observers speechless. He stopped trying to be accurate in the traditional sense and started trying to be effective. He fired suppressing bursts to clear areas rather than precise shots to hit specific targets. He used environmental hazards as weapons, triggering deliberate collapses to eliminate multiple targets simultaneously. He turned equipment failures into advantages, using a broken targeting laser as a distraction device. When the smoke cleared, had achieved something unprecedented, a perfect score in a section that had been designed to be unsolvable under traditional precision methodologies. "Impossible," screeched. He violated every principle of accuracy training. He deliberately chose imprecise methods. The ancient judge studied the replay footage with all of his numerous eyes focused simultaneously. He achieved the objective of every challenge through methods that maximized effectiveness rather than minimized error. According to the competition parameters, this is not only legal, but represents the highest possible demonstration of practical precision skills. Sergeant Santos took an unconventional approach even further. When faced with the chaos section, she did something that made the arena's safety systems activate. She deliberately caused additional equipment failures to create new opportunities. By overloading her targeting system, she created a powerful electromagnetic pulse that disabled the electronic countermeasures that were meant to make certain targets impossible to hit. She's not just adapting to the chaos, James realized with wonder. She's weaponizing it. Santos moved through the course like a force of nature, turning every obstacle into an advantage and every disadvantage into an opportunity. When ammunition became limited, she started using the environment as ammunition, triggering rock falls and machinery failures to eliminate targets. When time pressure mounted, she stopped aiming carefully and started shooting destructively, clearing entire sections with area effect techniques. Corporal's run redefined what the competition meant entirely. Faced with a section where traditional accuracy was genuinely impossible due to multiple overlapping interference fields, abandoned the concept of shooting altogether. He navigated through the course and physically activated the targets by hand, achieving a perfect score through a method that no one had considered because it technically wasn't shooting at all. The objective was target activation, the judge confirmed when challenges were raised. The methodology was not beyond the use of issued equipment and techniques consistent with species capabilities. Physical activation falls within these parameters. By the end of the day, something extraordinary had happened. The human team hadn't just succeeded in the chaos protocol, they had redefined what success meant. Their individual accuracy percentages remained lower than their alien competitors, but their mission completion rates were perfect. More importantly, their solutions were being studied by alien competitors who were beginning to understand that they had been thinking about precision in entirely the wrong way. The universe wasn't a controlled laboratory where perfect accuracy could be maintained. It was a chaotic environment where effectiveness mattered more than perfection. "How do they do it?" asked Ambassador On of the approaching doctor during the evening's social period. "How do they succeed by abandoning precision?" James smiled as he watched his teammates demonstrating human problem-solving techniques to fascinated alien observers. "They don't abandon precision. They redefine it. For humans, precision isn't about hitting the exact center of a target. It's about achieving your objective regardless of what goes wrong along the way." The conversation was interrupted by an announcement from the competition organizers. Tomorrow's final challenge had been modified in response to the day's events. Instead of traditional precision tests, the final day would feature what they called reality simulation protocol challenges designed to mirror actual conditions where precision skills were used in the real universe. Sarah felt a chill of anticipation as she heard the announcement. The aliens had spent 3 days learning to compete like humans. Tomorrow, humanity would have the chance to show the galaxy what they were truly capable of when the competition finally matched the conditions they had evolved to handle. The final day would determine not just the championship, but whether the galaxy was ready to understand that there might be more than one way to achieve perfection. The final day dawned with an electricity in the air that seemed to charge every molecule in the arena. Representatives from dozens of species had arrived overnight, drawn by reports of humans somehow competing at the highest levels of galactic precision competition. The observation decks overflowed with beings who had come to witness what many considered impossible. The reality simulation protocol was unlike anything the championships had ever attempted. Instead of controlled courses with predetermined challenges, competitors would face scenarios that mimicked actual situations where precision skills were critical. Emergency rescues in unstable environments, equipment repairs under combat conditions, medical procedures during natural disasters, and resource acquisition in hostile territories. "These scenarios are drawn from real galactic crises of the past century," announced the ancient judge. "Competitors will be evaluated not on theoretical accuracy, but on their ability to achieve critical objectives under genuine life-or-death conditions." Sarah stood with her team, watching as the arena transformed into something that looked less like a competition venue and more like a disaster zone. Simulated gravitational anomalies created areas where normal physics didn't apply. Environmental hazards included toxic atmospheric conditions, extreme temperature variations, and unstable structural elements that could collapse without warning. The first scenario involved extracting civilians from a space station, suffering catastrophic system failures. Competitors had to navigate through sections with failing life support, rescue trapped individuals, and transport them to safety while maintaining precision in the operation of critical rescue equipment. The team approached it with their characteristic methodical precision. They calculated optimal routes, established safe zones, and began systematic extraction procedures. Their four-armed coordination allowed them to operate multiple pieces of equipment simultaneously with remarkable accuracy. But as the scenario progressed and systems continued to fail in unpredictable ways, their careful planning began to fall apart. "They're treating it like a precision engineering problem," Doctor observed. But it's not. It's a crisis management situation where the variables change faster than you can plan for them. When environmental conditions shifted unexpectedly, simulated atmosphere venting that altered pressure dynamics throughout the station, the team stopped to recalculate their approach. Precious minutes ticked by as they worked to maintain their precision standards under new conditions. They faced similar challenges. Their mathematical precision allowed them to calculate optimal rescue sequences, but when the station's artificial gravity began fluctuating randomly, their carefully planned movements became impossible to execute. They found themselves paralyzed by the need to recalculate every action in real time. Lieutenant entered the scenario with a completely different mindset. Instead of trying to control the chaotic environment, he adapted to it. When atmosphere venting created dangerous pressure differentials, he used them to his advantage, allowing the air currents to help propel rescued civilians toward safety. When gravitational fluctuations made precise movement impossible, he stopped trying to move precisely and started moving effectively. His approach to the rescue operation looked chaotic to observers accustomed to alien precision methods. Moved rapidly through the failing station, grabbing civilians and equipment with what appeared to be reckless abandon. But there was a method to his apparent madness. He was optimizing for speed and effectiveness rather than precision and safety margins. When a section of the station began collapsing ahead of schedule, did something that made the safety monitors reach for their emergency intervention controls. Instead of evacuating the area, he deliberately triggered a controlled collapse of an adjacent section, using the debris to create a barrier that protected the civilians he was extracting. He's thinking 3 moves ahead, Sarah realized, watching his actions with growing admiration. He's not just reacting to what's happening now, he's predicting what's going to go wrong next and preparing for it. The scoreboard showed precision metrics were lower than his alien competitors, but his mission effectiveness was unprecedented. He had extracted more civilians in less time while using fewer resources than any previous competitor. Sergeant Santos took on a medical emergency scenario that pushed the boundaries of what anyone considered possible. The challenge involved performing life-saving surgical procedures on multiple patients simultaneously, while environmental conditions continued to deteriorate around her. The alien competitors had approached this scenario by prioritizing patients based on medical protocols and maintaining sterile procedural standards. Santos ignored both approaches entirely. She triaged based on who she could save rather than who the protocols said she should save, and she adapted medical procedures to environmental conditions rather than trying to maintain ideal surgical environments. When power fluctuations threatened the operation of critical medical equipment, Santos didn't wait for backup power systems to activate. She performed surgery using improvised tools and manual techniques that no medical protocol had ever documented. When contaminated atmosphere made sterile procedures impossible, she focused on speed and effectiveness rather than perfect technique. She's saving patients that the protocols would have classified as, observed a medical specialist with undisguised amazement. How is she achieving surgical precision under those conditions? She's not achieving surgical precision, doctor replied. She's achieving surgical effectiveness. There's a difference. Corporal faced the final scenario, which had been designed as the ultimate test of precision under pressure, disarming an explosive device while under fire in a combat environment. The device was protected by multiple security systems, required precise manipulation of microscopic components, and had a timer counting down while hostile forces attempted to prevent its disarmament. Previous competitors had focused on the precision requirements, establishing secure perimeters and taking time to carefully analyze the device before beginning disarmament procedures. Took one look at the scenario and did something unprecedented. He ignored the explosive device entirely. Instead, focused on the hostile forces. Using techniques that no precision competition had ever seen, he turned the combat environment itself into a tool for completing his mission. He manipulated the attacking forces into damaging their own positions, used their weapons' fire to eliminate environmental obstacles, and eventually convinced them that helping him disarm the device was in their own survival interests. When the dust settled, had achieved mission success through a method that hadn't involved traditional precision skills at all. He had solved a precision problem by eliminating the need for precision entirely. The arena fell silent as the final scores were calculated. The human team had achieved something that redefined the meaning of the competition itself. Their individual precision metrics remained lower than their alien competitors, but their mission effectiveness scores were perfect across all scenarios. More importantly, they had demonstrated solutions to critical problems that no other species had even considered possible. Of the delegation stood slowly, his forearms working in an agitated pattern that his species used to express profound confusion. "I don't understand," he said, his voice carrying clearly through the arena's sound system. "How can imprecision lead to better results than precision?" Commander Sarah stepped forward, feeling the weight of representing not just her team but her entire species. "Because," she said clearly, "precision isn't about hitting the exact center of a target. It's about hitting what matters when it matters, regardless of what goes wrong along the way." She gestured toward the scoreboard, where human scores dominated every effectiveness category. "You've all spent so much time perfecting your aim that you forgot what you were aiming for. We never had perfect aim, so we learned to achieve our objectives anyway." The ancient judge rose from his position, multiple eyes focusing on the assembled competitors and spectators. "The Galactic Precision Championships recognize as this year's winners the team that demonstrated the highest levels of precision where it truly matters, achieving critical objectives under real-world conditions." As the human team stepped forward to accept the championship trophy, the alien spectators began to understand something profound. They had been competing in a different competition entirely, one focused on technical perfection rather than practical effectiveness. In the days that followed, requests flooded in from across the galaxy. Military academies wanted to study human combat techniques. Medical schools requested access to human emergency procedures. Engineering programs sought to understand human problem-solving methodologies. The jeering had stopped entirely, replaced by something the humans had never expected to hear from the galaxy's most advanced civilizations: requests to learn. Sarah stood on the observation deck one final time before the human delegation departed for Earth. The arena below was already being reconfigured for next year's competition, which would be held on Earth using scenarios designed by human military and emergency response specialists. Doctor joined her, holding a data pad filled with collaboration requests from alien scientists. "They want to understand how we do it," he said with quiet amazement. "How we succeed by embracing imperfection instead of fighting it." "Maybe that's what humanity brings to the galaxy," Sarah replied, watching alien delegations practice human-style adaptive techniques on the training grounds below. "We're not the most precise species, or the most accurate, or the most technically advanced, but we're the species that succeeds anyway." The reputation of humans in the galaxy changed overnight. They were no longer seen as the species that couldn't hit the broad side of a barn. They became known as the species that could burn down the entire barn if that's what it took to complete the mission. And for the first time since humanity had joined the galactic community, that was a reputation they were proud to carry.